A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to video games that are totally awesome. So for this instance, I'm going to be covering the sequel to Wii Sports. Because by 2009, there came not just any sequel to probably one of the best remembered games on the system, but it also became one of the best selling, because Wii Sports Resorts, and its release in 2009, not only introduced a few new mechanics, as well as some improved controller functionality, especially because the game did itself come with a bit of an add-on, as well as some improved Wiimote skins, which you would apply. They not only allowed for the Wiimote to be fit snugly inside, but also this device that attaches to the bottom of the Wiimote. This is basically a small module that actually allows for omnidirectional positioning, as well as more improved aiming and control. Supposedly, it actually did a great job in terms of giving a more fluid control motion, as well as some of the most accurate feel within the game. It certainly goes to show that wireless technology truly had evolved so well that by this point, they were able to make the Wiimote feel like one of the most unique tools in gaming history. I mean, we basically gone from having baseball bats, tennis rackets, swords, and whatnot, to a variety of other things. And of course, if you're familiar with the nunchuck attachment, well, this also did allow for some other actions to take place as well. But apart from that, the Wiimote's actions did allow for us to deal with a good variety of different games. We had a much bigger selection of games to work with here. You had Swordplay, which included a few variations including Kendo, Showdown, Duel, Speed Slice, which you could say was kind of the predecessor to the highly acclaimed Fruit Ninja. But then of course there was also wakeboarding, frisbee, disc golf, which was in-game referred to as frisbee golf, archery, basketball, which like Swordplay also included its own variations, three-point pickup. There was also table tennis, golf, bowling, which reintroduced the 100 pin run, dogfighting, canoeing, power cruising, cycling, and air sports. Yeah. So the thing is that there's a much bigger variety of different games to choose from in comparison to the predecessor. And with these new controls in mind and this new module that they introduced for the Wiimote, this definitely made for a lot of variety. Not just for control, but also in terms of challenge. For archery, for instance, all you had to do was to simply pull back and release to fire the arrow. With good enough accuracy and enough practice, you can expect to hit a good bullseye. For wakeboarding, you hold the Wiimote sideways, and by shifting it around, sort of like how you would if you were holding onto the ropes of the boat, you're able to use the waves to your advantage and score some epic points. With basketball, you simply had to throw up into the air. With table tennis, you simply hold it as is and basically use it sort of like with the actual ping pong racket. And of course, with swordplay, you'd simply hold it like so. Pretty much like you would with an actual sword. Cycling, of course, does utilize the nunchuck, and you gotta run it up as good as you can. But don't overexert yourself, because otherwise you'd be forced to pull over and drink some water. And then of course, with every other sport involved here, they're all self-explanatory. Some sports were carryovers to this game from the original, and many of which actually had a lot of improvements over the original as well. So Resort definitely ensured that, just as one would expect, is not just any sequel. We're being transported to an island full of fantastic sports and activities for the whole family to enjoy, or friends in mind. So in comparison to what the first one offered, which was loads of nostalgia, Resort had way more to offer, proving once and for all that given such a console like this can become successful over time, they can offer way more. And it's no wonder that over time there did come along other variations. You didn't just have Wii Sports and Resort, but the Wii U and Nintendo Switch also had their own versions of sports. There was Switch Sports, there was the Ring Fit system. Those, of course, are some of the examples of the more modern equivalent to what Nintendo sports games had to offer in their own unique way. And of course, with representing the uniqueness surrounding the iconic Mii creativity. Not to mention, with certain games, they do in fact auto-generate players with some unique variety in terms of names and identity. So you could basically be facing against certain people whom you might recognize, face against certain names, and I will admit, there's a good amount of names that I had never heard of before until I played this game. You ever known about Midori, for instance? I'll tell you what, I do kind of like that name nowadays. If it hadn't happened for Wii Sports Resort, I probably wouldn't have even known what the heck that is. But, like anything in life, it can introduce you to a lot of things. I, of course, got to know about wakeboarding because of this game. I, of course, got to know about archery when I played this game, or at least how it worked. I've heard about archery before, but never have I actually tried it out until this game came around. Of course, I could nowadays just go and get an actual bow and some arrows and fire at a target, but I don't see that happening given the fact that I got money for anything else. But let's be real here. With all the stuff that I've talked about in this very point of video games that are totally awesome, there's been a lot of good lineages that we've gotten, and we've definitely had a lot of good highlights to showcase in this whole series. Although I will say that maybe having these come on a daily basis has been getting a little rough. And it doesn't really seem like it's going to work out all too well. So I guess with that in mind, Wii Sports Resort is probably going to get a bit higher of a score in this instance for having much bigger variety and giving us a lot more to work with. It wasn't just any sequel. This was a sequel that ensured that we not only had the best ability for control of our gaming remotes, but also the best in terms of how variety and playability came around. We had a lot to work around with for our money's worth. And I'd say this one is a no-brainer in terms of the Wii. In fact, this has been regarded as the third best-selling game in the entire system. 33 million plus copies sold so far. And that's a lot of profit that Nintendo managed to rake in. One unique game with a lot of money in mind. The only others, of course, being the Wii Sports Original and Mario Kart Wii. So talk about having a lot to live up to. And a lot of success that generated off of its own sense. But for my overall scoring of Wii Sports Resort, in contrast to the first, while I probably didn't give it the best score I could have probably given it, Resort had way more to offer. That's probably the biggest strength of this one and compared to the last one, which variety was a bit lacking. But Wii Sports Resort is getting a good 8.3 out of 10.1. While I can't say that Wii games or most other games that I've played on other consoles are actually better than ones on the PlayStation, that's mostly because PlayStation has been my lineage since I was even born. And I will say, while it was nice to branch off to other platforms, it sure was a good idea for me to do something different here. And even more so knowing that, up until now, I've had a lot of consoles. And some of which had been liquidated. Not much use I can get out of them anymore. But for tomorrow, I'm probably going to leap forward into a much more recent realm, just like what I did with Dave the Diver. So, if you want to see that bit, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side.